All right, what's up, everybody? This is within a week or two of the 1 year anniversary of my first interview with Phil Jones, the author of Exactly What to Say, who I really now not only consider one of the most important people I've interviewed in this community, but really building a friendship. So good to get to know you, bro. Like I loved that first interview we did, and then the glasses of wine we've had, the dinner we had. Get to know you as a human being has been really, really awesome.
Yeah, it's been a good time. It's been a good time, and we've had many a fun connection, many a try to fix this mortgage industry in some way, shape, or form, or can we bring world peace, or can we change the world into some form of better place together? So I enjoy those chats.
Yeah, no, I really do too, and appreciate you making more time to invest in this community. For anyone watching this, Phil, how many how many books have you sold? Like two, going on 3 million?
Yeah, somewhere like that. 2.7, 2.8 is exactly what to say. It's in 29 languages. We've had a runaway success with the real estate version as well, and it's made me very much have a deep dive into the world of real estate transactions across North America and sprinkling into the rest of the world as well. So as well as playing in over 800 other different industries.
It's amazing, and it's a required read for anyone in this community. If you have not read the book, first of all, there's no excuse. It's like a 1 hour book. There's never been a simpler and easier book to read. And if you're in the business of delivering service, leadership, value, and impact, pretty much to anyone, like it's going to help you have more impact. It's going to help you have more influence. So Phil, I wanted to call today's call. I was just going to do exactly what to say in 2024 because I know a lot's changed in our world, lots changed in your world. But I thought, like, let's do this exactly what to say and how to say it.
Okay.
A good friend of mine, Greg Shear, runs an influencer division for a company, and I had told him I was interviewing you, and I said, "What questions should I ask him?" And I was kind of just like wanted to see what he had. I put it in the queue, but he asked me a question that I thought would be a great way to start this. I mean, we live in a world now. And it's just gotten more and more like this, ADD, attention spans are shrinking. It's never been harder to really get into someone's mind and have them really listen to you and listen
Right.
to you with an open mind. So, I mean, asking the right questions, obviously that's essential. But how do we get people to actually listen in this digital shift era that we live in?
I think you have to earn the right for somebody to give you any attention in their world. That is the belief that I hold. And what that means is you have to show the other person that you have a value in their life. In the fast-paced world that we live in, we become so transactional with language. We become so short with our answers because we believe that nobody really cares. So what we do is we placate responses. The simplest of examples is when you walk into a retail store and somebody says, "Can I help with anything?" And you say, "No, I'm just looking," even though you actually really needed somebody to help you to find the thing you were looking for and to show some interest into the puzzle you were trying to solve. We brush people off. We're trained to be able to do so with politeness. So in any scenario where you're looking to be able to add value to create listing is you have to prove to the other person that you're in this for them, that you are committed to being able to help solve their puzzle. Now that also means you have to show them that you haven't yet solved their puzzle. You're just prepared to get in the mess with them, and you're prepared to stay in the mess until clarity presents itself. That's where listening comes up because they believe that the listening now has purpose. The listening is about trying to understand a bigger picture. The listening is about helping the other person articulate the puzzle they're trying to solve or the mess they're in. And how this shows up in the mortgage industry is we find ourselves in these dogfights about rates, or we find ourselves in these challenging situations of my dad's better than your dad when you're in a 50-50 as to which direction that they're going to look to be able to move in. So we're throwing a punch for a punch and nobody's really listening. Because what's happening is you're trying to get your point of view across while they're trying to get their point of view across, which nobody is actually in that listening space. So if there's anything I was to say that would be different about how to approach conversations in 2024, it's slower. It's be very slow to judge. It's enter into every conversation believing that you don't know the answer. However, you can help somebody get to the answer. Now, that's where listening now feels like it's intentional and it's on purpose, because you are seeking to understand. You are seeking to see the whole of the picture. And when I think about independent mortgage advisors in this time, their value is appreciated over time. I repeat that again. Their value is appreciated over time. Yet most of the conversations about their value are under a microscope in a moment. Like, what does the paperwork look like on the closing table? What is my payment going to be the first time I get my mortgage statement? What is the interest rate by comparison to somebody else's interest rate? They're not looking at the bigger picture about somebody's wealth creation, the way they want to live their life, how they might want to be able to transpose wealth to others in the family, what they might be looking to live in for their next house and their house after that and their house after that. Nobody's playing the bigger picture. So if listening is the goal, you have to be a useful listener, which means you have to prompt a conversation that's worth listening to.
That I love the way you answered that. A couple of things I wrote down when I was just listening to you. I wrote down, more curiosity. The
Yep.
more curious you are, the more humble you'll show up, the more you'll get to the need. I'm working over the weekend. I worked on my keynote that I'm going to be doing throughout the year, and it's called Obsessed with Impact.
Right.
And actually I'm thinking about doing a podcast called Obsessed with Impact too. Anyone listen to this, if you like that name, let me know. But I wrote down more curiosity, more empathy equals attention and impact. Like those two things.
We took the math equation that curiosity plus empathy equals trust.
Yeah.
Now, if trust is the goal for us to be able to get there, it's about being curious enough to understand their context, to demonstrate empathy, to show that you're relatable, that you are on the same page. Many conversations become arguments. They become my right is better than your right. What we should be looking for is that's right. Some form of right that lives outside of the conversation that we can ride towards together. That's the goal that everybody's looking to go down. And if people aren't listening to you, the first question I'll ask yourself is, how good a listener are you? How good are you at listening to other people? And if you're wondering why people aren't listening to you, there's a strong possibility that you might not be listening to them.
Yeah.
And yes, it's about being more curious, but it's also about being strategically curious, not just scattergunning somebody with an interrogation of questions. So what does that show up like in a mortgage conversation? Is things like, well, what is your experience of purchasing homes in the past? And what is your experience of working with a professional loan officer? How long do you see yourself living in this next home? How important is it to you to have things like flexibility over the payments that you can make? How important is it to you that you actually own the home in its entirety at some point? What are some of the other things that you thought about potentially maybe looking to do over this next 5-7 year journey that you potentially may need capital for? What do you understand about all the benefits that you would have from working with an independent loan originator? Who do you know that has worked with a mainstream lender and had a less than perfect experience? Could it be possible that there are alternative options here that you haven't yet considered? See, all I'm doing is I'm staying strategically curious, collecting meaningful evidence that can support a recommendation that working with me would be the right choice, but I've said nothing. And I get to listen to gold because I ask smart questions. And I show them that they're looking at, say, for example, the rate. I'm looking at how they're funding their lifestyle over the next decade.
What I wrote down there, one of the things that we talk about all the time, and it's part of my keynote, is speed to need. We live in an era where we need to get to the need, and it's not just speed, but it's speed to the bigger needs. What you heard him do, what most loan officers do, is they focus on the need of, they need a loan. Here's your rate. Here's your payment. Here's your cash to close. That's a very transactional need. And that does not create the most impact and the most value. You notice he was just going down like, I think you did it about 5 or 6 times. And once you get to the third need, to the fourth need, and sometimes you don't need to go to the fifth need, that is where you change the game. I had a text conversation with Denise Donahue and Deborah Bird over the weekend, two people that have been through your workshop. And this is actually it's in my keynote. I actually made this slide over the weekend because I'm dialing in, obsessed with impact. But look at this. She said the short-term analysis in Mortgage Coach is the most valuable thing I can show clients right now when making a decision. I always do the full TCA, but this is a game changer. So what she's really saying and tying it back into what Phil did, it's like going in like deeper, like loan officers are focused on rate in your payment. And let's face it, interest rates suck. They were worse. They've come down off the all-time high, but guys, 50% of them, no, 63% of people that have mortgages have a 2 or 3% mortgage. And 80% are under 4. And rates may never get there again. So why she's saying this is because it's never been more important to go beyond rates and focus on the deeper needs of a consumer. And then Greg, hopefully you and your influencers got some perspective on that. What do you think this, like Greg who asked it, I mean, most of his loan officers use Mortgage Coach, at least his highest producing ones, but they're creating a lot of social media content. And one of the things I think that people who are, call it mortgage influencers, should be creating more content around how they solve the needs of consumers and going deeper on that. Like, I think they would get more attention if it wasn't so transactional and it was, deeper needs. What are your thoughts on that? And applying what you just said to social media content.
I don't know if more content is always the answer. I think the starting point I would look at is how many brand new customers would you like to have over the next 10, 15, 20 years? Get to an answer on that, because there is a number. I think most people are just chasing more, but you could have a number that is just right, because we know what the number is that's too few. We know what the number is that's too many, which means that there must be a number between there that you can choose that says, here's how many brand new customers would I like to be able to influence. If you're talking about having obnoxious levels of impact, then the other area of focus is to say, who are you for? So how many brand new customers? And then specifically, what type of customers are you looking to be able to work with? What I'd then be looking to say is, how do I attract and educate a target pool of 100 times the number of brand new customers that I would like in the next 12 months, combining up over the next 20 years? So say, for example, that you wanted to support 50 families over the next 12 months. That was your ultimate goal. 50 families is what you were looking to be able to influence. You could probably start to break that down. And you could probably start to break it down and say, well, in my pipeline of past clients, there might be 6 or 12 or 15 or so people that are likely to transact again in the next 12 months. You might then say, well, 12 or 15 are going to come from my real estate relationships that I have. And then you're going to say that the middle group are going to come from the direct-to-consumer marketing that I create for people raising their hand saying, can I talk to you? And whether that's referrals or any of those other things. So what am I now doing is I'm now looking at my content more strategically. I'm creating content for those realtors to help showcase them how to have more effective conversations with their clients. What am I likely talking about? I'm talking about the mistakes that most real estate agents make when talking to their clients about rates, mortgages, and affordability at this moment in time. I'm producing content about how they can show up more informed and more educated when speaking to their consumers, so that they become more confident about putting me into a conversation with their consumers. That's a third of my content. A third of my content that I'm creating is actually utilizing my past clients as my content creators. I'm collaborating with past clients because I want more people like them. So instead of me being the star of the show, the hero of the story, Harry Potter in the movie, is I'm going to move my position to Gandalf or Dumbledore or any of those older learned figures in these movies that we so much adore. And I'm going to look to showcase the families that we've helped in my content so that people can see themselves in the decision making that have been made by others before, that help answer one of the most important questions. Have you done this before? Have you done it recently? Have you done it for someone like me? I can answer all three of those questions with content that has been curated utilizing past clients with a greater level of efficacy than I can by me showing up and throwing up about how smart I am about something. What would I then build as a body of content? Is I'd build a body of content that supports the transition that I know the majority of my target market customers are working through. So if I'm looking to be the local expert in helping people go from a rental building to be their first purchase, I'm building a body of content about that, and only that. Where am I making the environment for that content? I'm making it in the cafeteria in people's workplaces that are sat around having a conversation about should we rent or should we buy, and I'm bringing other people to the discussion. I'm having conversations with people in their rental buildings. And that's the backdrop for the conversation. But if I'm in the conversation about helping move up buyers, move out of a low rate mortgage to a higher rate mortgage to help amplify their life, then I'm building content about that, and only that. Because now what I'm doing is I'm showcasing, yes, I'm a Swiss Army knife, but I'm a really good pair of scissors. I'm a great pair of tweezers, and I got a pretty sharp knife too. I have all those other tools, but these are the three where I play to strength. And now my content has purpose too. So it isn't more content, it's more content on purpose with intention around saying that you show the people that you're for, who you're for, not by saying, I know a lot about mortgages. You show that I know enough about the people that need mortgages. And then when people see themselves in the puzzles you're trying to solve, you become a lot more attractive.
That makes tons of sense. So I think we've kind of nailed the topic, how to say it, a lot of the nuances of how to say. I want to do a review of some of the things last year that they're in my presentation, like, exactly what to say. So I want to review some things that you and I collaborated on in the past. Like in the first call, I had this value prop script that mortgage coaches say all the time, and it used to start with, my advice helps you build wealth with real estate faster by helping you make smarter mortgage decisions. You had me edit that to our continued advice. And then it used to be, my team will proactively coach you and ensure that you always get the best mortgage, and you change it to your team.
Yeah.
So I always want to help people that are in our community that, are getting speed to need, using our technology, position themselves well. Are there any edits for 2024, or is it still just, it is what it is?
We could change the word "are" to the word "this." This continued advice helps build wealth with real estate.
We got to change something. Yeah. So we're going to do that.
And the reason to change from "are" to "this" is "are" has a sense of belonging, and it is it is past tense. I'm not receiving it. We're holding the gold. This activates it, puts energy into, and it's like, oh, I got the secret. Let's roll with the secret. That we're moving with the same pace. So it makes it future, it makes it active, it helps create movement in the conversation.
What a difference one word will make, guys. And I like that a lot. So that's a real critical part to differentiating yourself. Now, everyone listening to this, if you say all this and then the customer gets a fee worksheet, you're not, this is not advice. This is a transactional experience. In order to say this and then actually have it have substance and impact and conversion and loyalty, you need to get to the needs of the consumer. You need to, as Denise said, you need to show them the impact of those options over 5 years. And that's where magic happens. So here's another script that I want to get your feedback on. So these are actually slides in my keynote that I'm going to be doing. And I always think that the ultimate touch point in retention is the moment the borrower has a need, and most people's databases, they're not being monitored, most real estate agents.
let's pump back to that slide, and I'll give you a Phil thought on that turns a 9.6 into a 9.8. The ultimate touch point in retention is the moment just before a client has a need. Like, you don't want to wait to say, I need the door opened. I need that door open for somebody to say, let me grab that for you. You want to be walking towards a door that you might need open, that before you realize that door needs to be open, somebody says, hello and welcome. The door just opens in front of you. So if you can be just ahead of the movement, and think of it like a dance, right? Only some of us enjoy dancing on dance floors. All of us enjoy dancing on dance floors with partners when our partner is more experienced and can lead the dance and can help us look better than our current level of competence. The role of a highly skilled mortgage professional when it comes to retention, reputation, and building a long-term business is to be just ahead of the music, is lead the dance. Don't wait till somebody says, now what? And you're ready to say, let me tell you what. Now, what does that look like? Even in your content. If you purchased a home in 2021 while you're under the pressure of low interest rates, fast moving markets, etc., it's highly possible that you bought a home that means that that is not entirely fit for your current needs, and that you're questioning whether you should stick with a low rate in a bad house or make the move into something that's more fitting for your circumstances, forego that low rate in place of being able to live more in line with a lifestyle that is congruent with your current family circumstances and needs. In that scenario, you would have three options. You could do this, you could do this, you could do this. And if you want to understand the pros and cons of each, I've produced a long form video helping you to navigate that decision for you and your family. It's across here on YouTube. Done. But you see how that's ahead. That's saying, I know that people are thinking about this. Not being ready to respond when they ping you and say, hey, we're thinking about making a move. Could you tell me what it would look like if we were to give up this rate, move to a house that's about the same price, but in a different area? What difference would that make to our payment? Sure, speed to need, great. You've got to respond quickly, but wouldn't it be better to be the marketplace of one? Because if you're in the I'm going to respond quickly when they need me market, there's a possibility they ask more than just you. And the messy place that comes ahead of before you need something is a process of discovery and exploration. If you can meet people when they're in discovery and exploration, you can create a lot of influence and change. Let's play this with another analogy, Dave. Is if you're hungry and you need food, and you come to me and say, hey, I'm starving, where shall I eat? Then chances are you'll accept anything or you've got a predetermined idea. If I catch you earlier in the day before you get to starving, there's a strong possibility that we can have a collaborative discussion that results in a more enjoyable food and entertainment and live experience for everybody involved if I catch you before you get to starving, before the need arises.
So a Phil Jones edit. Let's check it out, everybody. And Phil, I have a feeling you're going to like one of the slides I'm going to show right now. But you noticed I added before there. So the ultimate touch point is the moment before. And as I was saying, most lenders and loan officers aren't even monitoring their database. They can't predict the needs. And the technology, that Sales Boomerang was built on, 4 or 5 years ago, was, giving listing alerts, was giving credit inquiry alerts. Now, those are valuable, but what's missing is they're already in the need zone. All of those alerts are
that's an
right
alarm.
here, guys.
That's not a buying signal. That's a, you're about to lose this person. They're potentially going to be out the door. Go get them back.
But they're also in the market. Like, they're there.
Yep.
And this is what Phil was saying, like anticipating need, the moment before the need. This is where it's at. I mean, this is why at Trust Engine, we're going beyond what we call trigger alerts into anticipating the needs of consumers and then engaging those consumers in the right message at the right time. We call them data-driven borrower creatives. So
Yeah.
it's anticipating a need, it's giving, a simple message that then takes them into a coaching conversation. So any changes to the Phil Jones OFQ framework? And by the way, if you could just give people a review on this, because when they're calling or messaging on these anticipated needs, I want to make sure, one, we got the latest and greatest
Yeah.
2024, what to say to these, but any updates or any thoughts?
OFQ is what I believe to be a timeless approach to starting any conversation from a position of trust and getting yourself to a point of permission remarkably quickly. You're looking for a polite opening. You're looking for mutually agreeable facts. You're looking for easy to answer questions. If you're planning to be intuitive to help identify needs before they arise, where is a common window that somebody starts thinking about their next mortgage product? Is it 5 years after closing table? Is it 3 years? Is it 2 years? Is it 18 months? Like where is the window that you almost certainly should be making a structured outreach conversation to a past client? Let's just pick one, Dave. What do you think we could run with?
So say it again. I wasn't ready for you to ask
Where
me
is
a
a
question.
moment that, without question, a good LO should be picking up the phone, making an outreach to a past client for certain?
Oh, I mean, without question, at annual review. I mean, that is, at least once a year. In
Yeah,
interviewing Sean Herrero recently, he's like once a quarter. But my official answer for this question is, aside from once a year, is that when you get a signal that customer has a need,
yeah,
or they have a future need, that is the most important time you
yeah.
can engage with that customer with curiosity, empathy, and value.
And what I'd be looking at is to try and do things that, if you are different to your competition, how do you get to behave and act in a slightly different way? So I'd plan some outreach points that show a level of human interaction, right? Is it's highly unlikely that the 12-month anniversary of an action is going to be the trigger point for you looking to be able to make a change. When you look at things like car renewals, right? Many people have a 3-year or a 4-year lease agreement on a car. But when do they start thinking about changing their car? It's in the 24 to 36 month window.
Right.
It's at a month 26, 27. It's when they go past the 50% of useful life period on this decision, they start thinking about, so now what? So if I was building OFQs that pattern interrupted in the mortgage market right now, I'd be looking at a space between month 24 and month 30 of them completing on the transaction. And I'd put a meaningful review conversation in here that would come entirely unannounced. I'd use the opening of like, hey, it's Phil calling from Loan Depot, or, and I just name and where you're calling from. The facts that would be mutually agreeable is, I know you remember that we helped you with your loan back then in 2022. And since then, we've provided you an annual update, and we've helped you with your paperwork to make sure you can file your taxes and help keep your position of your equity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what I also know is true is, at this point in time, for many of our trusted clients, you're starting asking the question of, so what's next? See how I'm putting that in as a mutually agreeable fact?
Love that.
The easy to answer question I'd add on the end of this that would be ridiculously relevant for 2024 would be something like, so do you see yourself staying in this home for the rest of time, or are you considering making any alternative plans in the next few years? Just a gateway. Now, they're okay to make either of those choices, and they also know the answer. Now, if they say that we're planning to stay here for the rest of time, then what can you do to be helpful for them? You can be helpful about advice on overpayments and what they can do to be able to reduce any liability, or how they might actually stick in that mortgage product for a longer period of time. And the advice you provide to them would mean that this individual could be a strong referral partner for you for the next 20 years. But I think 8 out of 10 families are going to say, well, we're starting to think about where we might go for next. The kids are making a break into middle school, and we're probably going to have a different type of commute. And my work's changed, my husband's work's changed, and we haven't got a solid plan in place, but we don't believe we're going to be here forever. Bingo. We just got a new start line. And wouldn't it be cool if this was true, Dave? Wouldn't it be cool if loan originators weren't reliant upon real estate agents for leads, but real estate agents were reliant upon loan originators for leads?
Let's go. That's
Right? Let's
that's a
flip that
yeah.
script around and be showing up to your real estate partners and saying, hey, good news is I've got Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They've been a long-term client of ours. We've helped them secure 2 loan products. They're considering potentially moving to this area or this area, this area. They're pre-approved to this. This is the payment level that they're comfortable with. Can you help them understand what they might be able to get for that kind of money if they were to potentially make a move? Bingo. Now what I do is I own the relationship. I'm not a transaction component of the relationship. I'm the relationship holder. And the scary thing for many LOs is you're calling them your clients, but they're not calling you their mortgage girl or guy.
What powerful advice, takeaway for that, guys, is your database is your number one priority. If you crush it with the customers that you serve and that you win at the point of sale, and you're there from a speed to need perspective. By the way, I put these slides, I did not just make this slide. I had this slide from our last conversation, but here's the annual review talk track, leveraging this framework. Here's when you get like an equity insight, something that is predictive, something that is in that sweet spot, the need, just the moment, just before the need. And then of course, Phil did put some things that are more reactionary, where, hey, they listed their home, they did a credit inquiry. So if you want these slides, there'll be a link down below. These are part of my Obsessed with Impact presentation.
Yep. You could help me with my mission, Dave, as well. Is I am on a mission in 2024 to ban phrases like checking in, circling back, and touching base.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm on a mission to ban them is they are lazy. Checking in feels flippant. Touching base feels inappropriate. Following up is creepy.
There's fortunate
so I challenge everybody to say, how do we level up our intention around language? If I say I'm just checking in, this is not an important conversation.
So what's the new phrase?
It could be a number of things, but it's definitely not that. So this is where you add intention. You add specificity. I'm calling to update you on a number of major changes that could affect you and your family. The purpose for calling today is to find out what's changed since last time we spoke in June of last year. The reason for the outreach today is that I know a lot of people are confused about what's happening with interest rates and the impact that could have on their decision making.
You mean one for first-time home buyers that are renting, and we need to get them to really think about owning? Anything come to mind?
Well, I'm not checking in, am I? I'm not touching base, and I'm not following up.
No.
If I'm using OFQ here, I'm saying, hey, it's Phil calling. I know we spoke historically about you potentially becoming a homeowner at some point in time in the future. And I gave some insights as to what a mortgage would be on the kind of homes that you were looking at. Have you given up on the idea of home ownership, or is that still something that you anticipate doing in your future?
Powerful. Piercing. You have my attention.
Okay. No, I haven't given up. No, I haven't given up. So how long do you see yourself renting before you look to be able to make a move? Well, I don't know. I mean, we're due to be able to renew our lease in June, and in an ideal world, we wouldn't renew. But I just think with the rates as high as they are right now, and so much confusion about whether we are going to still be in our jobs and what part of the city or town, or even if we move to Colorado, that, you know, we're thinking on. So I just don't feel that we're ready to be able to make that decision yet. Okay. But you're ready to make the decision to make home ownership more expensive for you? Well, what do you mean? Well, what do you think might happen if you wait another year? Do you think it's going to become more expensive or less expensive to buy a home? How important is it to you that you become a homeowner at some point? Well, yeah, it's very important. So help me understand this, is why do you think waiting is going to help you achieve something that you say you want?
So powerful. So powerful. And then guys, make sure that you always show people what is the cost of waiting. You know, this is a little screenshot from a rent versus own showing that, you know, net worth in 5 years based off of that consumer's assumptions. You know, they could buy a 3-bedroom home and rent out a few bedrooms in house hack. You know, you've got to ask those questions, and then you need to take the time and show them how it makes sense. So
And
bro,
show
I
them
want
which
to,
is the mission, Dave, as well, is you would say things like, you know, would it help if you had some accurate data that showed you the difference between renting and owning over maybe the next 5 years and the impact that would make on your net worth? They say, yeah, that would be helpful. You say, well, the good news is that as an independent, experienced mortgage professional, is I align with a professional body called MortgageCoach that gives me access to some of the most insightful data that's available across North America, that allows people like you to make more informed decisions because they've got real facts as opposed to just tabloid headlines. Would that be useful if we could put 15 minutes on the schedule where I could present some of those findings to you and your partner and help you navigate what really is the right thing to do between now and June? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
looks like I have a new slide coming into my presentation with a new Phil Jones script, man. So
Right? But you got to go slow. And I think if there was an echo for this year's success in conversations, it is slow the process down so you can speed the outcome up. And I got that reinforced when I did some work with a group of Marines in the last 12 months that said that when they go into hostile scenarios, challenging scenarios, they echo a statement that says slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
yeah, I just wrote down go slow to go fast, go better, and go further. And
That's it.
I'm gonna play with that. Well, I want to be respectful of your time that we've allocated. So I want to close out with taking action and training.
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah.
everyone, they heard this, good ideas. You know, one as your coach here, you know, the chief mortgage coach, rewatch this, you know, and go slow. Make sure you wrote down some of the scripts, and then make sure you made them yours. You know, these are talk tracks and they need to become yours. But what are some things people can do outside of this to just train? You know, train on your book, train
Yeah.
on being a better salesperson.
I mean, we've had a lot on this over the last few years, David. And the downside of writing a book as successful as exactly what to say is how much you leave out. I think it was Mark Twain that said, if I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter. Like the brevity of the book allows it to travel fast. It allows you to get great insights, put them into practice, but we leave a lot of information out. And success in conversations it's a practice. You don't get to master it. You just get to keep adding intentionality and practice. And that's what I love about how you show up to these calls with me, is you're looking for refinements and evolutions, and how do you polish something that's already awesome? That's what we're looking to be able to do. So we've done a lot to be able to help people get into practice environments, to get into scenarios where they are talking about what they talk about with other people that care about what comes out of their mouth. And some of that is our 2-day deep dive certification programs. Some people choose to run those with me here in New York City. You mentioned like how Deborah Bird and Denise had come and been a part of that, but also Deb and now Todd Bookspan have become licensed and certified to deliver content on this and applying it directly towards the mortgage industry. So I'm excited to see their run of events and how people can actually dive into that body of work. But also we just launched these, and I know we're on video here on YouTube too, is these are role play cards that allow people to navigate hundreds of scenarios that come up within real estate transactions and then apply the magic words to them. So, the scenarios you find yourself are things like talking to a past client. You're at a listing appointment, and sure, that's a real estate related one, but the same is true from a mortgage. You could work this with your real estate partners. It's somebody thinking about selling, you're servicing a past client, you're at a closing table, you're at an open house, all these common scenarios. But then we have all of these objections that show up too, is like, people think that they've offered too much money, so they're considering pulling out. We want to find our next house before we sell this one, so that they're stuck in a stagnant position. Or why do I need an agent if I can find the product that I found myself online? Or is, why didn't you show my home when I had it in the market? Is, what if we find the buyer? Like, all these things that come up within the real estate transactions that are now having people think about, well, how would I find the right words to be ahead of that objection? How would I work with somebody who's stuck in that moment of indecision? So we're having fun seeing people role play with the cards in a different way, where it isn't script practice or memorizing and parrot fashion repeat. It's making purposeful messes and saying, okay, Dave, you're at the closing table, right? The client is concerned about the fact that they're going to work with Rocket Mortgage instead of working with an independent provider. How would you navigate that conversation from them there? And you'd say, well, what if you had these 3 perspective changes? What if you could ask a how important question? What if you could ask a when was the last time question? And you'd give them 3 cards to say, well, give some thoughtful thought about how you could stack 3 questions to help somebody see the world differently at that given point in time. And there's no right way of doing it. It's just a purposeful mess that has people thinking. In the same way that yoga is a series of moves, or martial arts are a series of moves, but when it gets to fight time, or it gets to being in a full flow state, you need to know how to be able to sequence these things together for it to be realistic and purposeful and intentional. Those are the jam environments we're currently looking for people to get more and more into. Not saying that was right and that was wrong, is that was good and how do we make it better? That was good, how do we make it better? And let's stay in that place for the rest of time. So encourage people, if you haven't got a deck of cards, grab a deck of cards and see what you can do to jam on those for fun.
So we'll put a link to those cards down below so that you guys can order them. And I did an interview with Dan Keller last year in December, and it was all about just role playing and scripting and practicing. And so I just can't emphasize enough to, buy those cards. And I loved the idea as I was listening to it. That'd be a great exercise with your realtors. Realtors know Mr. Phil Jones. I mean, how many stages were you on last year with Tom Ferry, and how many realtors did you talk and present to, do you guess?
I would guess that I had direct exposure to maybe 50,000 plus real estate agents last year.
Yeah, in person, on stage. So, the book, the man, the cards have value, have recognition, and, be a conversion partner. Like, this is a year of conversion. And not only do you need to focus on what is your conversion and how can you improve it, scripting words, mortgage coach, but you need to help realtors do the same thing. And then I'll also put a link down below because you have workshops. Todd Bookspan and Deborah have, mortgage specific workshops this year. So if you want to go and train, get in person with a small group and learn, listen, implement, practice, we'll make sure there's links down below for all of that. Any other closing thoughts or things we missed before we wrap up our conversation today?
I'll just echo the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment when you're saying it. Mm-hmm. So take a beat, take a breath before you run into action. Are you sure you're being helpful? Because you don't give value, they get value. So you can't keep showing up to conversations saying, I shared so much value with them. Why are they not getting it? It's valuable if they decide it's valuable. So work to be more valuable, which means package your advice and your expertise in ways that serves them to help them navigate their decisions more effectively, and you will be called more valuable. You will become more valuable to others, but you don't offer value, they receive value. So look to see how your value can be received more easily and more effectively.
Beautiful. It's such a great call for the Mortgage Coach community. Also want to remind everyone that, Phil was the #1 video last year. Scriptapalooza actually would have been #1, but when we uploaded it, we didn't upload it right, and it got about 3,000 views, 4,000 views, and then we uploaded another one. And guess who was in Scriptapalooza last year too? It was 4 hours of some of America's most effective, most successful, highest impact, valuable professionals, giving their best scripts. And then Phil stepping in and going, hey, this is what I like. This is what I think could be better. Guys, there's so much value in today's conversation, brother. I am grateful for the friendship we're building. I'm grateful that you're willing to make time and share your genius. I got a lot of improvements in what we're doing and how we're doing it. So super grateful, brother.
Just keep stepping, and I'll make sure I bring you a deck of cards when I come out and see you in California in the next week or two.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go buy a deck of cards right now. I've got to have those like within a couple days, but I'll look forward to that.
They're
And everyone,
awesome.
links down below. Take care, everybody. Hope you got value. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you are the first ones to get these videos when they come out. If you're not already a mortgage coach, you can go to trustengine.com, get signed up. If you want to make sure your company is monitoring their database with Trust Engine, let your managers know. Take care, everybody. Hope you got tons of value.
Thank you, Dave.